As we mentioned earlier, in Manchester, New Hampshire, Patrick Buchanan is about to deliver remarks. He invited several thousand people to the Courtyard restaurant in Manchester. He's expected to enter the room momentarily. He is not expected to drop out of the race, according to campaign advisors and the Associated Press, but to talk about where he, quote, wants to take the future of the Republican Party. We'll listen in, come back with Stu Rothenberg, and have more of your phone calls. We'll be with you until 2 a.m. Eastern Time with results from New Jersey all the way out to California.
Up here, then we'll move aside, but it makes a better camera shot now.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's so good to be back here in New Hampshire where it all began. The memories are fond and strong of that night where the Buchanan brigades sent King George's hollow army reeling back to Massachusetts. And we took Governor Gregg and Lord Sununu into custody. You all, I want to express my gratitude tonight to many, many people in this whole campaign. First, right up here, Chuck Douglas and Carolyn Douglas. Chuck was the chief slicer and dicer of poor John Sununu. People have asked me, Chuck, what happened to him? He's gone. I heard lately he's been on some minor cable company on some show called Crosstalk or Crossfire or something like that. He's gone. I want to give my thanks again to the greatest paper in America, the Manchester Union Leader. And in particular, that great lady, Naki Loeb, whom I spoke with tonight, who can't be here. I'll tell you, and one fellow who can't be with us, and that's the bull alligator himself, Bill Loeb. Wouldn't he have loved this campaign? And I want to thank Joe McQuaid, who did such a fine job taking Gordon Humphrey apart on television, and Jim Finnegan, the best editorial writer in America. Let me tell you a story. And I want to thank some of the folks we brought up from Washington, Paul Erickson, who ran our campaign here in New Hampshire. Let me tell you a little story about our New Hampshire team. It was the very day I was to announce, and I thought I had a good speech written, but it was written out, and I usually speak from notes. And so he came in, he gave me this folder and said, this is the way to do it. And I said, I'm a little nervous with that. And then as we were walking out, and said, Pat, I got to tell you, a number of AIDS activists are here, and they're going to yell, and they're going to disrupt your speech. I said, they are? He said, yeah. He said, but don't worry. I have a third-degree black belt, so you move a little bit away from me, and I'll just take care of them. All the way over, all I could think of was some sudden kick to my lower stomach as I was about to speak. But when I did get up and speak, some of the AIDS activists acted up. And two of my aides, Chris Tremblay and Paul Nagy, decided they would help me out. So just as my speech got to the point where I talked about compassion for the forgotten American, they were body slamming an AIDS activist on the sidewalk. And I want to thank in particular Jackie Domain, who went out there with me on that first day and introduced me. You know, very early in the campaign, I got up and said somewhere, they were asking me, what are you trying to do? I said, we're going to send them a message. And she pulled me aside and said, Pat, I hope we're here to do more than just send messages. And we were here to do more. We were here to start a little rebellion that is turning still into a great national revolution to take back the Republican Party and overturn the establishment, that one-party government in Washington, D.C., my friends. And I want to thank also the wonderful, wonderful people of the great state of New Hampshire who have gone through so much these last 3 years. You know, they came out and worked for us and helped us. They were so enthusiastic and dedicated, and a lot of them are right here in this room, that they all went to the polls so early and worked so hard and came out that the exit pollster said Bush is going to get beat, it's all over. And that's why the national press gave us such tremendous coverage, the enthusiasm and energy of all you folks who helped us so much. And I do want to apologize for one thing. I know they talked about our ad. Read my lips, no new taxes. I understand that the children in the daycare centers are still ODing on that ad, telling their classmates, read my lips. So, you know, half our money in this campaign went into those ads, and the other half was spent at Dunkin' Donuts, I think. I saw a picture tonight of myself. This little girl took it and won an award for it. It shows me very thin and gaunt. I lost 15 pounds up here, and Bill Clinton picked up every single one of them and then some. You know, really, it is so good to be back. I will never, never forget New Hampshire. The people, you know, the people up at that James River paper mill, The people at that Laconia sub shop, where the fellow pulled me aside and said, I put an ad in the paper for a new delivery man, $4.50 an hour, no health benefits, 250 people applied from as far away as Nashua. I won't forget that lady. I won't forget that lady. Christmas Day, we were flying home, Shelley and I, and she came up to me at the airport, broke down crying, said, we're losing our job, and I'm going to have to give up my autistic son. I know this state, and I'll never forget it. And you know, we accomplished a lot up here. We brought King George up to New Hampshire, even if he had to bring a bodyguard named Arnold Schwarzenegger with him. And we accomplished some tremendous things. The first is the Buchanan brigades themselves. You know, on election day and the day before, when we took that tour around the state, you saw it in the signs in the snow. 10-1, Buchanan over Bush Quayle, 10-1, those young people. And a lot of them, they came up here, they were volunteers. And Mr. Bush, as they said, had to bus them in from some of the northern schools. I know, because some of the Buchanan kids at the northern schools got on the Bush buses and came in and went to our headquarters on Elm Street. You know, one day, you know, I belong to a crew-cut Goldwater generation of young conservatives. And I think our generation put Ronald Reagan in office, and we did some wonderful things for America, including winning the Cold War. And those young people, we energized, and we got into this campaign, not only in New Hampshire, but in Georgia, and Minnesota, and Michigan, and California. One day, maybe some decades distant from now, those kids are going to take over this country, and they're going to do some great things for America. You know, we gave birth up here in New Hampshire to the great protest movement that is still spreading across this country. We took on Mr. Bush first. No one else would. We showed him how it's to be done. You know, Mr. Perot, a fellow named Perot, I haven't met him recently. But you know what he's saying? He's saying we got to phase out foreign aid. And he's saying maybe Japan and Germany should start spending more for their own defense. And he's saying there's too many registered agents of influence in Washington, D.C. It sounds familiar. You know, and when the campaign ended up here, we got even the President of the United States to say, I got the message, I made a mistake, I shouldn't have raised taxes, I'll never do it again. So I think that's another victory. And you know, Jim Finnegan, the great editorial writer, was concerned about David Duke. And I said, don't you worry about Mr. Duke. He's not up here. Well, I'll tell you what this campaign did. We went down into South Carolina and Louisiana, and we buried him 4-1. And David Duke has not been heard from. He hasn't been heard from since Super Tuesday. And you know, after we did well in New Hampshire, George Bush and the White House, they made us a peace offering. It was the head of John Frohnmeyer of the National Endowment for the Arts on a platter. And we said that's unacceptable, and we went on to Georgia and Super Tuesday, and tonight in California and Ohio and New Jersey and Alabama. For a time, my friends, we not only had the nation's attention, we had the world's attention. I remember right after New Hampshire, Prime Minister Miyazawa of Japan called in the reporters and said, don't worry about New Hampshire. Mr. Bush will do better in the later primaries. We had their attention in Tokyo. But the truth is, Mr. Bush did do better. And after Georgia, where we did as well as we did in New Hampshire, he became stronger, and he was beating back the Buchanan brigades. In the last analysis, Teddy Roosevelt tried to take the nomination away from a sitting Republican president and didn't do it. Ronald Reagan in 1976 tried to take the nomination away from a sitting president and couldn't do it. And I guess in the last analysis, Pat Buchanan couldn't do it. But as William Butler Yeats wrote, all is changed, changed utterly. A terrible beauty is born. New Hampshire was our beginning, but Houston is not the end. Houston. Houston is a truce line. It is not a surrender. Houston is going to be a beginning. We're going there to serve notice that the revolution, which was launched here, may be suspended through November, but then it begins again and begins anew to take our party back and take our country back from those who walked away from us. We're never going to quit. We will show them again that men who believe in something other than themselves will always prevail over men who believe only in themselves. You know, what was said that first day in Concord remains true. They are yesterday, and we are tomorrow. We go to Houston, my friends, not to swear fealty to King George, but to tell them at Houston that the little rebellion that began here has turned into a mighty revolution. And while we intend to stay inside this party and to work for this party's victory in November, we will one day take this party back from those who took it away from us, and no matter how long it takes. So I want to congratulate the president, who won the gold medal in 33 primaries while we won the silver in every single one. But they won the battle, not the war. And for all of you and all of us up here, I think we can truly say we fought the good fight, we have run the race, we have kept the faith. Thank you very much. Okay.
We did.
I spoke to Shelley.
Okay.
I missed it. I gave her the...
No leftist. Yeah.